Welcome to Weekly Pulse. I'm your host, Ralphie Aversa. All right, baseball owners are working on a plan to start the season by early July. Good news? Maybe not. USA Today's Bob Nightengale explains what it will take to get the MLB Players Association on board. And now that the NFL schedule's been revealed, we take a look at some of the most anticipated revenge games. Get ready because some of these matchups will come with a lot of beef. Next, we're recapping episodes 7 and 8 of the Michael Jordan doc, The Last Dance. NBA All-Star and Chicago Bulls teammate BJ Armstrong joins us to talk about Jordan's switch to baseball and that breakfast chat that led to him trading in his baseball glove for a basketball. And finally, NASCAR is back. I talk with NASCAR driver Gray Gaulding about the NASCAR Cup and what it's like to finally get behind the wheel after a 2-month hiatus. This is Weekly Pulse. Let's roll.
The plan includes a 50% revenue sharing for the first time in the sport's history. All they've done before is had sharing with the postseason games, not regular season. It is expected to be rejected by the union, perhaps immediately, because the union does not want a salary cap in their sport. They also say, let's face it, when teams are sold for a huge profit, when these new TV deals come for a profit, we're not getting part of that revenue. We'll see what happens. The players want to be paid on a pro rata basis, but not take a bigger pay cut. The proposal also includes an 82-game regular season schedule. There'll be no realignment. The divisions will stay the same, but yet teams like the New York Yankees, they'll play the American League East, also play the National League East, but nobody else. The Los Angeles Dodgers, certainly they'll play the NL West, but now they get to play the AL West too. So yes, the rematch they've been talking about all spring, they finally get to play the Astros, trying to make up for what happened in 2017 when they believe they were cheated by the World Series title by the Houston Astros. We'll have a universal DH in both leagues. There'll be a 30-man roster with a 20-man taxi squad. This way, if players get injured, players get sick, there will be available replacements. So right now their hope is to have major league games at their own home ballparks for a sense of normalcy. We'll see what happens, but at least this is the first plan Major League Baseball is submitted to the union. It'll probably take weeks of negotiations with the hope that spring training will start. Spring training will start in mid-June at either the home ballparks or the spring training sites. Each team can make their own decision on that, with the regular season starting the first week in July.
So Tom Brady won't get his chance to seek revenge against the Patriots this year unless they meet in a Super Bowl 55 matchup, which they won't. But with that said, there are still plenty of NFL players and teams that will be on the hunt for revenge in the 2020 NFL season. Odell Beckham Jr. versus the New York Football Giants. Well, as he put it, the Giants traded Odell to the Browns, quote, to die. But he's alive and well and out for revenge when he makes his return to MetLife Stadium Week 15. The Browns' game plan? Give OBJ the ball. A lot. Enough targets and he's bound to do something magical, especially against a more than unproven suspect Giants secondary. Vikings at Saints. The Vikings have tormented the Saints 2 of the past 3 postseasons. This game is on Christmas and could determine a lot for NFC playoff seeding. The only thing Saints fans despise more than the Vikings are the refs. One thing's for sure, Stephon Diggs will not be providing any mini miracles in this one. Melvin Gordon versus the LA Chargers. The former Chargers running back held out for the first 3 weeks of the 2019 season, and LA never ended up paying him. Instead, he signed a 2-year deal with the Broncos this offseason. Week 11 will be his first chance to show the Chargers if he was worth the money. The Browns visit the Steelers. This heated rivalry ended last year with a bang, quite literally. Myles Garrett will be back on the field. Mason Rudolph will not. But plenty of bad blood remains in this first encounter since the infamous helmet-swinging brawl. Week 6 will give each team an opportunity to either bury the hatchet or seek revenge. I'd expect the latter.
First thing I wanted to ask you was it as shocking to you as it was for everyone else when Michael first retired?
Well, no, I wasn't shocked. Knowing him and knowing everything that we had been through over those last 4 or so years, there was a lot of pressure that was building, internal pressure, not from the outside, but internally, just having the responsibility of performing at that level. We were coming into every season with one expectation. We were going to win a championship, or it was a bust of a season. So that's a lot of pressure for anyone to handle. He accepted that responsibility as the best player on the team. We all accepted those responsibilities. But you know what? I think over time, it just wears you out. It wears you out. We all felt, that pressure. I think, I think it was touched upon in the documentary that it was a sense of relief after we had won the 3rd championship. And then everything that transpired over that summer, it was just a culmination of things to where, he figured out what he needed to do to gather himself. And eventually his decision was he wanted to retire. And, he did what he had to do.
Was there a certain moment when you knew, did he like give you guys a heads up as a team beforehand? Like, hey, we're going to have a presser, or how did that go about?
Well, no, he didn't. And
wow.
if you remember, if you're looking at the doc, we didn't learn till like a couple of days before training camp. So, it was kind of suddenly, we were sudden. I think it was doing the baseball, if I remember correctly, was right during the baseball season or the playoffs in the baseball. So that was right before we were about to start training camp when we found out. Wow. And so, I think he thought about it. He took everything into consideration. And Mackenzie at that time, there was a lot of things, that was going on publicly. We knew the Jordan character, but privately, you have to deal with what you have to deal with from your family, deal with things you have to deal with. And that was a big decision. And we understood his decision. We understood that he needed, to do what he needed to do. And we just wanted to be there to support him as well.
What was that first meeting like with the team? I want to know what the vibes were like. I'm sure there was not a sense of relief, but it was like, okay, we don't have someone yelling at us all the time, or someone else is going to have to take that position. What were the vibes like in the first meetings?
Well, the yelling, like that, we all yelled at one another. That's what we did. Okay. So, that's what we did. And that's why we were a good team, is because if I did something wrong, they could yell at me. If they did something wrong, I could yell at them, and vice versa. So we were really good about that as a team, as a group. We had what I refer to as a bunch of truth tellers on the team. We were going to tell each other our truth. And it wasn't personal. It was just what we had to do because we understood the results we wanted. And when he left, when Michael finally retired here, we knew we had to regroup, and we knew we had to, play a different way. We knew if we were going to win, we had to come up with this game plan kind of quickly. It wasn't something that we could prepare for over the summer. Our team wasn't built to be a different team. We were built to be a team around Michael Jordan. And then suddenly in a week or so, we had to change our plan. The thing I remember most about that season was the emergence of Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen, in all of this, I don't want this to ever get lost. He was an MVP caliber player that year. He was terrific. I mean, he led us in scoring, assists, steals, everything. He was MVP of the All-Star game. And Scottie Pippen really took the biggest jump in his career. He went from the number 2 guy to the number 1 guy. And he had arguably the best season of his career.
I want to flash forward to the playoff series with the Knicks, Game 3. What do you remember most about those final seconds with Tony, Phil, and Scottie? Because I feel like Scottie kind of reached a boiling point there, and we got to see that in the doc a little bit.
Well, yeah, that was, they touched upon that last night, and it was during the game. So you're just trying to figure out the game. And for us in Game 3, we were already down 0-2 in the series. So that was a must game for us. And we had played well enough to win that game. But the Knicks were a great team. They were a resilient team. They continued to play through, and they tied the game up. So I don't remember much about what was going on at that time because I was just trying to finish off the game. But I did remember, I was just locked into the game. But what I do remember is our leader, Bill Cartwright, after the game, he addressed the situation, and it brought everyone. I mean, Bill was in tears, everyone was in tears, and it was just one of those moments that you'll never forget because we love Scottie. And Scotty that's my guy. That's our guy. And we've all had our moments, right? And it happened. That's what happened. But the thing I was proudest of then and still to this day is that, Bill Cartwright was there to set an example for us and provide the leadership that was necessary for us to move on. It did. And then, in that series, game 4, Scotty came out, played great. Game 5, 6, and we took that team to 7 games. And that series could have easily gone. It could have, gone left or it could have gone right. But we had the leadership internally. And Mackenzie, Bill Cartwright's speech at the end of the game was one of the great moments of my career, because I was getting a chance to see, people who really care about other people, right? It wasn't about the game. It was about, this is us. Be upset, be mad or whatever was going on. But hey, we love you.
And one of my favorite parts of the docuseries was when they flash forward to the 94-95 season and you playing a really big role in MJ's running with him coming back. And your breakfast with him is now famous. Did you go to that breakfast knowing you would invite him to practice? Because I know you didn't just invite him to practice.
Well, I would love to take credit. But, because when you have things like that and people mean, there's a few things you'll take away from professional sports, and your friendships is one that I always take very serious. The relationships and the friendships that I have with people, because they last a lifetime. So to be honest with you, Mackenzie, I had no idea. I had no intention of coming back to play. It was just, I wanted to be a good friend. Like Michael was always going to be a good friend. He would check in. I check in with him. How's baseball going? How's life, kids, family? And then he was like, I'm in town. I was like, oh, great. And he was like, well, let's grab a bite. For sure. Hey, I got practice, but let's do it and figure it out. And one thing led to another. And before we knew it, it was guys being guys. And that's all it was. It was like, what's going on? How you doing? And hey, I have my practice stuff on, and then he was talking. I was like, hey, I got to go. Like, I don't know what you're doing, but I got to go to practice. And then he starts talking, and we started, just being silly. I mean, honestly, that's what we're doing. Like, that's the one thing with Michael that for us who have spent time with him, more than the star, which we all see, being one of the guys is probably his greatest gift. And he's just a regular guy, and he's really funny. And he's, of course, you can see a little bit here, the trash talking that was always prevalent. So before we knew it, we were just doing what we always do, right?
You joked about playing one-on-one with him. Did you actually run a game up, and who won?
Well, he won. I have to admit, he won the game. He did win the game.
At least you talked back.
Yeah, you get your talking in, right? And then you win. And the thing is, it's 2 things that really happened. I couldn't believe. One, that it was like funny, like, like we're seeing him, and I was just happy to see him, and we were there, and hey, what's going on? And then all of a sudden he went from there to like, we're talking, and then we're talking smack. And I never thought, and still, I can't believe he did it. Like, he can't, because he had shoes on, he had clothes on, is that he would really play. So I was like, all right, let me just say something that's so outrageous. Like, you'll never do that. Okay. Yeah. You'll come and play. And he was like, oh yeah, I will. I was like, all right, whatever. There's no way you're going to do that. You're not going to play in your shoes. You don't have sneakers. You don't have anything.
Yeah.
And he did it. So I couldn't back down. Right.
You're like, oh shoot.
And I'm still embarrassed that I lost to a man in street clothes. Right. And I lost to
Jay, I mean.
No, it wasn't. It's like one of those things. It's like, he called me out, I called him out, and then he went there. And that was so, but it was great for him. And honestly, it was just one of those things where I had no idea. I wasn't like thinking about it. It was just like, I was just happy to see that he still felt comfortable talking trash. He still felt comfortable being who he was. And he knew that he could still do whatever, and do his thing. So I don't know if that was the reason, but what I did want him to know is that, we were there for him. And I knew Scotty and everyone would love to, see him. And thank goodness that he came back, because that's what he does. And that's what he's, some things in life, you'll find something you love to do. And that's what he loved to do. And so if me getting beat by a man in street shoes, if that's what it took, then you know what, so be it.
I don't really remember if they said in the doc how many practices he had with the team, but I want to know for you personally, was there a moment when you were like, oh, he's definitely coming back?
Well, I didn't know, I never asked him. Like, I honestly, I never asked him. It wasn't like my concern. Like, it was just, it was just like, I was just happy that to see him, whatever he was dealing with, that he still felt comfortable enough to come back and still it was like we didn't miss a beat. It was like, okay, he went away for a little bit and then he came back and he did miss a beat. He was still talking. He's still like this big personality and he was talking trash to everyone, right? That's kind of like what we did. Like you broke up the monotony of the season by like talking trash to one another, always challenging one another. And I was just so happy that he was comfortable coming back around, knowing that whatever was going on, hey, do your thing, but you always are welcome here and you always have a family here. And that, and then Scotty and then Phil and the rest of the guys, knowing that he could be himself. And that was important for all of us because we had spent so much time together. Like all of a sudden you don't just, like, who is this guy? No, that's our guy. Hey, come on back. And then we started talking trash. And then he gave us an enormous amount of confidence when he did come back.
Now, last question I have for you, or something I want to talk about. Next week are the final 2 episodes of the docuseries. You know that. And I'm sure they'll touch on the finishing of the Final Bulls three-peat. But I want to ask you, if you were the director of this series, how would you kind of tie the bow, wrap this whole thing up?
Well, the one thing is, Mackenzie, I always just look at him and for the human side. And how would I tie it up is I would ask him the question, why? Like, just why did you play? Why did the game of basketball mean this much to you? Why, when you achieved everything individually you could do, you achieved everything you could do team-wise, why did it matter? Why were you living your life at these extremes, right? So you see he's so competitive, but then you can see the sensitivity to the side where he would just break down. Mm-hmm. So why? And I think you're beginning to see that he loved it. That's who he was. It wasn't clearly about the fame. It wasn't clearly about the recognition of saying he's the GOAT. It wasn't about any of that. It was just about, you saw someone that dedicated their life to their craft.
For USA Today Sports, I'm Ralphie Aversa, and we welcome in now ahead of this weekend's return. Yeah, first UFC and now NASCAR returning this weekend. 2 events in Darlington and a couple in Charlotte as well, including one of the crown jewels, the Coca-Cola 600. Stock car racing driver Gray Gaulding. Gray, how are you?
Doing well, man. Thank you. We really appreciate you having me on. And like you said, just really excited to get NASCAR back racing, that's for sure.
Yeah, obviously NASCAR, along with all the other sports, going on hiatus in March with this pandemic, and now NASCAR gearing up for its return this weekend. I know you have a big announcement about that we'll get to in a minute, but first, just as far as NASCAR returning, how do you feel about it?
I feel really good about it. I think the toughest part is, as a sport and all sports right now, there is no sports. All the sports fans right now are itching to see something. And I think for NASCAR, I commend NASCAR a lot on being able to pull this off. And obviously, with everything happening and going on with COVID-19, I mean, to see that we're, one of the first sports to really figure out a very cautious way and a safe way to put the event on, and we found that way is really impressive. So I'm very thankful for NASCAR to be able to do this, because I think it's going to bring a lot of attention, a lot of eyeballs to the sport of racing, even to people that might not even watch NASCAR. So we're excited, but like I said, it's a safe route, but also we're getting a show on the road. So I can't wait to have our Panini race car at Darlington and get it rolling.
Gray, you make a great point there. You're going to have some first-time viewers. You're also going to have some fans who maybe left the sport and returned because, as you mentioned, there's not a lot of sports happening right now. For those that are watching for the first time and or returning, how would you describe to them NASCAR here in 2020? Like, what are the big differences? Like, what do they need to know?
Well, you know what? I think what I tell every NASCAR fan, or even a fan of just any type of sport, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, and let's just say they've never watched NASCAR. One thing I'll say about NASCAR, I've grown up around this sport my entire life. It's my passion. It's what I love to do. And I think the biggest thing is you just have to go to one to experience it. But obviously right now the fan can't go to one. So obviously everyone's going to be watching on TV. I just think that people need to give it a chance. It's a team sport. Just like, you can't win an NFL game if your fellow teammate made a mistake or continues to make mistakes. With racing, it's a team sport. Every tire changer has to hit the lug nuts. The crew chief's got to make the right call. And obviously me driving, I have to do the best I can to not wreck the race car, but also put myself in position to win and get a good finish. So it's a very interesting sport, and I advise anybody out there that's never seen it to give it a try, because Sunday there's going to be a lot of attention going up, and obviously it's going to be entertaining, because normally we go to a racetrack, right, and we'll have practice and qualifying. Well, we don't have any, so we're going to show up and just race. So I think as a fan, that's awesome. Like, you don't know who's going to win, because normally you can kind of tell for practice or qualifying who's got a good car. So, I'm excited about it.
What precautions is NASCAR bringing you through ahead of Sunday's race?
Yeah, well, NASCAR's they're definitely taking all the precautions they can and trying to make everyone there as safe as possible. Like, even before I even get to the track, every crew member, driver, hauler, driver, spotter, everyone's going to be tested for their temperature before they even go in, and before they're around a group of people and anything. And another thing is everyone's going to be wearing masks. Like, me as a driver, if I crash the car, the rule is I'm not able to take my helmet off until someone gets to me. So I won't even be able to breathe on or, possibly spread a virus, which obviously I don't have the virus, but, we're trying to limit every single opportunity of that happening in our sport. Every way possible. From being in the car, I'll have a mask in my car for when I get out. And even if I'm walking around the garage area, we're not allowed to really hang out or talk to or touch or, just be in the vicinity of other teams as well. They're going to try to spread us out as much as they can. And obviously, me being in the race car, I'll have my helmet on. And if something were to happen when the ambulance gets to me, I'll have to keep that on to make the proper precautions. So, I commend NASCAR on everything we're doing. I know it's a really odd and tough part or tough spot to be in, everybody. But as far as the roster goes, my family can't even come to the track, so they're limiting every single type of opportunity to spread this. Even if it's a person that don't think they have it, they're cutting basically all the outside world off to racing. The only people allowed at the track are the ones that are on the team, the driver, the crew chief, the spotter, and the truck.
Great. Today was a big sports day for you. What happened? Please tell us.
Yeah, well, obviously, as you can see in the background, my race car, we're very pleased to announce that I'll be driving for Premium Motorsports, and Panini will obviously be the primary sponsor, and they've been with us, ever since last year. It kind of feels like I'm coming home a little bit. Like, I know everybody here already. And I'm just ready to hit the ground running and get to racing.
That's it from us at Weekly Pulse, your heartbeat to what's trending in sports.
Hey sports fans, if you want to see more videos like this, check out some of our other ones right here. And if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button and stick around for more from USA Today Sports.